There was a lot of horrible things he did to her. He was sicko, just evil.
A brutal killing.
Diane was wonderful. She'd do anything in this world for you. It just rattled me all the way to my bones.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
We started getting phone calls from women that had encountered this man.
He had a crush on Diane. He would send her flowers and give her gifts.
It had the telltale signs of a serial killer.
The truth will be revealed.
He had this fantasy. Just came a time where he couldn't resist any longer, and he had to act it out.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. November 15th, 2001. A massive storm rips through Austin, Texas.
It was one of the worst storms that had ever hit Austin in, like 100 years or so. We had about 15 tornadoes come through that day.
The morning after, one resident is unaccounted for.
Hi, Diane. It's Gloria. Just checking in with you. Hi, Diane. It's 2 o'clock. Just worried about you. Wanted to check to make sure you're okay. Give me a call.
Diane Holik was with IBM. She was a project manager.
Most of her stuff was teleconferencing. The storm blew in Thursday afternoon. She was supposed to get back online by Friday at 10 o'clock. They had a big conference call. When she didn't make that conference call, everybody got concerned that maybe something had happened to her in the storm. That was very out of character for her to not make a teleconference call. They became concerned enough to call the police.
When officers first arrived at the house, they looked in through the windows. They checked around the back and all the doors were secure. There was no signs of forced entry anywhere.
They rang the doorbell and nobody came to the door. They noticed that Diane had a for sale sign out in front of her house.
A neighbor who had a key saw that there was police cars over at the property, so she walked down and offered to let them in.
When the officers entered the house, they checked all the rooms, couldn't find anything.
It was immaculately clean, everything in its place. But one officer, as he was leaving, thought about a room that he had gone into and reflected he didn't go all the way to the back of the room. So he returned to that room, and on the other side of the bed, furthest away from the door, he saw that the bedspread had been pulled over something.
When he rounded the corner, he noticed that there was a body halfway stuffed underneath a daybed that was in that bedroom. He immediately noticed that she had a deep furrow in her neck, which suggested strangulation. We knew that we were dealing with a homicide.
Lead investigator Detective Tracy Garish and Detective Eric De Los Santos are now responsible for finding Diane's killer. Their first task is to notify friends and family.
I got a call. It was Detective Garish from Austin PD. She goes, well, I'm sorry to tell you that someone had come into Diane's house and that she had been killed there. It just rattled me all the way to my bones. I just busted into tears at that point. Diane was wonderful. She'd do anything in this world for you. Anytime anybody came up to Diane, they were like an instant friend. She was like a sister. And to die the way that I was imagining at that time was devastating.
We learned through Diane's friends that she was a very vivacious, wonderful woman, a true innocent victim. I was in charge of the case and everything fell upon my shoulders. At the end of the day, that can weigh on your mind heavily.
To catch Diane's killer, detectives must unearth all the details of her final day.
Establishing a victim's timeline up to her death is key in any investigation. You want to go back even just 24 hours, find out what she was doing every hour of that day, up until the time where, of course, the murder happens.
We knew that the last time she had been on the computer was approximately 3:59. That's when she shut it down to prepare for the storm coming in. And then the following morning, she missed her early morning conference call, which would have been about 10 o'clock. We estimated that she probably was murdered sometime between Thursday after 4 and Friday morning at 10.
They focus on Diane's body, looking for further clues.
She was fully clothed. She still had jewelry on. She had a watch on. She still had some money sticking out of the pocket of her pants. When you're being strangled, your basic instinct would be your hands would go up to try to pull that ligature off of you. But we didn't see any broken nails. We noticed that she had these pattern that is similar to flexi cuffs on her wrists. We didn't find the ligature that was used to strangle her. We didn't find the flexi cuffs that were used to bind her hands.
The color of the wrist being red suggests that her heart was beating when the bindings were applied. She was either struggling against the bindings, causing abrasions, or the bindings were applied tightly, or both.
So we knew that the suspect took her by surprise, had to bind her because she would be fighting, and then strangled her.
As we went through the crime scene and searched the room, we observed that there was some makeup on the rug in the room that Diane was found.
So we felt like maybe that's where she had been taken down and basically subdued. We examined the entire house to look for some type of big struggle. We didn't find anything. Her car was still there, her wallet was still there, and she still had a significant amount of jewelry that was left over.
As we continued to process it, we found that it appeared to have been cleaned.
It was the most pristine crime scene we've ever seen. We didn't even find really Diane's fingerprints in her own house, and that's very unusual when you live there. We used a UV light to check all the carpeting and all the toilet areas, and we're basically looking for seminal fluid. But we were not able to find any in the house.
The evidence points to a well-planned, premeditated attack.
Initially, we always look at the people that are closest to you, a boyfriend, a jilted lover, or a friend, a coworker that maybe you didn't feel the same way for. We learned through Diane's friends that she'd been married before, but was divorced, and I think she wanted to get married again. And she met a man, Dennis, through an agency called It's Just Lunch. And apparently they hit it off right away. And within 6 months, he proposed to her. He used to live in Austin and he moved to Houston. And so that's why she decided to go ahead and sell her house and move to Houston to be with Dennis.
But friends say Diane's fairy tale romance had begun to falter.
We had heard that he had a short fuse and that he gets mad at the simplest things. Diane liked to go and come as she pleased. Dennis wanted to know where she was every second. She didn't like the fact that he was possessive or jealous because she was so free and outgoing. They had had a lot of on again, off again over the past 6 months, and things seemed to be continually going downhill.
Some of her friends said that maybe they'd broken off the engagement.
And I asked her, so you're still going to sell? She goes, yeah, even if I don't move to Houston, I'm still going to sell. This house is just too big for me and 2 dogs. I want to downsize.
An item absent from the crime scene raises suspicion even further.
She had an engagement ring that Dennis had given her. That was one thing that we knew was missing. If you were going to take a $20,000 ring, why wouldn't you take the watch that was on her wrist or the money that was actually sticking out of her pocket? So things were taken, but they almost appeared to be as if they might have been tokens.
As questions swirl around Dennis, police receive another incriminating clue.
One of Diane's friends knew a lot about Diane's personal life. And she had told us that she believed Diane had made a date for Thursday night online with some man, and she didn't know who it was.
Dennis was very jealous of Diane. If he had found out that Diane was dating other people, yeah, he had been absolutely furious. Furious.
A broken engagement has made Dennis Connolly the first suspect in Diane Holik's murder.
Because he was so prone to anger and because Houston's only 2.5 hours away, obviously we focused in on him. It was completely within the realm of possibility that he could come down to Austin, got into an argument with her, strangled her, and then drove back to Houston. Dennis actually left a bunch of phone calls on her answering machine right after the murder occurred. They seemed a little bit on the angry side.
I've been at work for an hour. Where are you? You better not be sleeping.
Hey, you, if I don't hear from you in about an hour, I'm calling the freaking police. I have to go by your house, okay?
Diane, what is going on? Give me a call.
Making contact with a deceased person after the murder is one of the ways that a murderer will try to throw the police off the scent and get the police to believe that you're calling because you did not know the victim had died.
Detective Garish brings Dennis in for questioning.
He did seem a little bit on the aggressive side.
I can't believe I'm here. If you run into problems again with somebody wanting to come down here like this, just tell them it's a private room and there's nobody around, because that's what I didn't want.
Right, okay. How long have you known Diane?
We met about 13 months ago.
Dennis told us that there were problems between them, but they were trying to work it out.
It's just, everybody carries baggage into your relationships at this age, and and our baggage was clashing, and we were working on it, but we decided not to be engaged anymore.
Okay.
And, you know, she was working like a crazy maniac, and I'm trying to get settled in a new job. There was just a lot of stress points. You know, she's so goddamn stubborn.
Detective Garish attempts to establish Dennis's whereabouts in the hours before the murder.
Diane did speak with Dennis around noon on Thursday via instant messenger. He said he was in Houston preparing a presentation Thursday night for a big meeting he had on Friday morning at his place of business.
I've got a friend staying with me, so you can vouch for me if it comes to that.
Through eyewitness testimony from his roommate, cell phone records, we were able to disqualify him as a suspect. Also, when we forensically analyzed her computer, we found no evidence of that date. We were never able to confirm that she ever had a date with anybody on Thursday night.
Dennis had some anger issues, but he couldn't have done this.
Dennis is soon pointing the finger at another regular presence in Diane's daily life.
Has anybody gotten a hold of Ray?
No, we're trying to figure out who Ray is. What's the deal with Ray?
I mean, I don't want to be vindictive, but he's the one that...
We're here to hear it all.
Yeah, so, I mean, Ray, every time I've met him, he's definitely out there on the edge.
Diane had actually hired Ray to be one of her employees, so he worked for her. Dennis said that Ray really had a crush on Diane. He would send her flowers and give her gifts. Dennis thought that that was a little odd.
The way Diane described it to me, he seemed to worship the ground she walks on. He seems to be attracted to women that are not attracted to him.
It's a strong accusation, so police speak to others to back it up.
Ray was pretty devoted to her. He's the one that took care of her dogs when she would go traveling or go out of town. He'd come over, he'd take the dogs home with him, or he'd sit there at her house and take care of them. He was always there.
Ray even appears at the house while police are processing the scene.
The woman who lives up the street called us and said, hey, Ray's over at Diane's house if you want to talk to him. Ray was a little flippant about everything, kind of joking and just odd. I mean, he was almost too enthusiastic about helping us with the investigation.
I know Diane probably better than most people in the town. I watched her house for the last couple of years, her dogs. I can tell you anything you need to know about the house or what she does or anything about it, so
Okay.
we could be here for a long time if you want to. You think that I can help you out?
I kind of want to know her schedule and...
Police, they've got a nose for things that aren't normal. And so if you're really forthcoming and you're really cooperative to a level that just doesn't correspond to what people believe is normal, then it can kind of lead to a creep factor.
Not to bug into your business, but did y'all find any signs of 4th century at all? Like any doors, nothing? She locked everything, so... These are her keys to our house, too, in case you need copies of them for any
To your house?
No, to her house.
Oh, no, I'm going to take those keys.
Okay, that's
She is deceased, and there's really no need for you to be in the house anymore. Who do you know that has keys to the house?
Just me. As far as I know, I think I'm the only person that I know that has keys.
I think he liked her so much that he had hope that one day she would like him or grow to have feelings for him.
People say you might have had a little crush on her.
Diane? Oh, hell yeah. For sure. I always had a crush on Diane.
And Diane didn't reciprocate your feelings?
No.
And that could have angered him. Said, Ray's definitely a potential in this.
It could have been out of jealousy for her being engaged to Dennis and leaving Austin, or he may have made some type of an advance towards her that wasn't reciprocated, and he got upset with her and strangled her.
The fact that she's covered up, there's remorse. Ray could have felt remorse after the murder.
Ray must now account for his whereabouts during the time frame police believe Diane was murdered.
He told us he was at work.
Do you punch in at work?
Yeah, so you can get that too. That's a record you can use. And there's cameras all over the place too in the parking lot. There's a scan card.
Every time you walk out the door, you badge in, badge out.
Have to.
So it's all documented every time he comes in and out of the IBM facility. So we were able to eliminate him through those records. Ray was an odd character, but he wasn't our guy.
Ray continues with his helpful behavior.
There's probably a question that I would like to ask you, but I'm not sure you're gonna be able to tell me or not.
Go ahead and ask it, and I'll let you know if I can tell you.
Did they know where they found her? Was it in the living room, the bedroom? I mean,
Yeah, she was in the upstairs bedroom.
She never goes upstairs. I would guess that she was showing somebody the house, and they went upstairs to look at the house.
In an effort to confirm Ray's theory, they speak to Diane's friends and colleagues.
We found out that, yes, in fact, she had had someone come see the house.
Cynthia was a friend of Diane's, and she knew that Diane was selling her home. Diane had actually contacted her on Thursday, and then she told her, hey, this guy just came to the house. He's moving to town with his wife and kids, but he's going to be paying cash. Diane was really excited that this was a potential buyer for the home. She said he was going to be returning. And I think Cynthia was a little upset with Diane because she allowed a stranger into her home. And she told her, you know, hey, Diane, you need to be careful about letting people into your house. She wasn't really able to give us a description of the person.
Police turn to the nearby community, hoping for a lead on Diane's mystery buyer.
When I first started canvassing the neighborhood, I spoke with the immediate neighbors, and no one had seen anything. And so that was a little discouraging. As I went to the different homes, I was told by some residents that also had their homes for sale that a male had come by interested in buying the property. One of the residents that I spoke to described the vehicle that this man had been driving as a metallic minivan. These people were telling me that the guy made them nervous, that he was kind of domineering.
Detective De Los Santos comes to a man who says he saw a metallic van parked in Diane's driveway around 5 p.m., the day before her body is discovered.
So that definitely threw up a red flag for us.
Police learn of a suspicious man seen near Diane's house on the day of her murder.
I became quite optimistic at that point, thinking, wow, we had a really good lead here on someone that was coming around the neighborhood, given this exact same story. He said that he had cash to pay and that he was kind of previewing the homes before he brought his wife over to look at the homes. Residents described the stranger as a white male with brown hair, kind of a large nose, possibly about 5'10", 200 plus pounds.
They find a woman nearby who is visited by the same man at 3 p.m., the day before Diane's body was discovered.
She definitely got a creepy vibe from him. He had left her a name, Walter Miller, and gave her the telephone number and said that he would be coming back with his wife. When I searched the name Walter Miller through the Austin police database, we only came up with 2. And one was in his 90s, so it obviously wasn't him. And the other one didn't fit the description. So we were able to pretty much rule that name out as being fictitious.
They trace the phone number to Bastrop County, around 35 miles from Diane's home.
It came back to a gentleman by the name of Matthew Sapolsky.
A background check reveals a criminal history.
When we actually located Matthew, he did not fit the physical description of our suspect, and he had also been injured severely in this car accident. And he had a crash collar around his neck, and he was paralyzed in both of his arms.
For investigators, it's clear he could not have physically attacked Diane on the day of the murder.
We were disappointed, but obviously we knew we were onto somebody who was pretty smart. Smart enough to leave fictitious names and numbers. However, they weren't smart in the fact that they way overexposed themselves in that neighborhood that day. But when you're looking for a stranger, the odds of you actually solving that become astronomical.
I kept asking them who could have done this, because it seemed totally random. Totally random.
Diane's father was actually a homicide detective in New York, and so I felt a lot of pressure to make sure that we turned every stone on this case to get justice for that family.
It just hit a little closer to home because I was a homicide detective and I had a daughter. That would be my worst nightmare. So I felt this sense of urgency to solve it.
Using eyewitness accounts, they create a composite sketch of the man and release it to the media.
Within minutes, we started getting multiple phone calls from women that had encountered this man, and they had their homes for sale.
The incidents go back as far as 6 months, all across the Austin area.
It appears that he went to homes during the day, and he went to affluent neighborhoods.
He was targeting a specific time frame to target a specific type of person.
Most of these women were stay-at-home moms, and their husbands were not there. During basically the depression in the real estate market, I think he felt like these women were so eager to sell their homes that they would be more willing to let him in.
So it might be that he just went through all these women because he was looking for the perfect victim. Or it might be that he was building up his courage to finally go through with it.
It was a pattern. It had the telltale signs of a serial killer or someone who could potentially do this again.
They receive a call from someone who encountered the man just 2 weeks before Diane's murder.
A woman called in and said, the same guy that you guys have put on TV came to my house. She said that he grabbed a flyer from the advertised real estate sign from the front of the house. During the visit, our suspect followed her into the master bedroom, and she knew in her heart that something really bad was about to happen. He just had this look in his eye. And then her baby cried. I think he got spooked. And when he got spooked, I think he left the house, not realizing that he left the flyer behind. So we immediately sent a crime scene unit out there to retrieve the flyer.
While waiting for the analysis, yet another woman comes forward.
She claimed that the man came up and was kind of demanding to get into the house to look at it. And she said that he was just so aggressive with her that it made her nervous.
It concerned her enough that she decided to peek out and get his license plate.
The description of the vehicle he was driving was a metallic colored minivan.
This description matches the vehicle spotted in Diane's driveway.
We ran it through our records, and it popped up the name Anthony Russo. And he lived in Cedar Creek, which is out in Bastrop County.
Research on Russo showed that he had a history, a violent history, especially with women.
Police believe they've uncovered the identity of the mystery homebuyer spotted in Diane's neighborhood. 38-year-old Anthony Russo.
Mr. Russo had recently been let go from prison after being incarcerated for an aggravated kidnapping. And in this particular aggravated kidnapping, he tied a woman up, basically held her hostage in her office for several hours.
He spent over 8 years in prison.
During that time, he found God. So now he's out of prison and he's gone to work at this small church in Cedar Creek as a music minister.
After you've done this job for just a few years, you learn that anyone is capable of anything.
So our initial plan to approach Russo was we basically were gonna knock on his door in the middle of the night.
We didn't really know what to expect with this guy, considering his history of violence. So we got to his house at about 4 in the morning. It's a very dark area. There's no street lights. It's out in the country.
We actually saw a metallic colored minivan. He opened the door. He never asked us why we were there.
Russo didn't seem too terribly surprised. We asked if he would come in and speak to him, and he did.
He basically told his wife, you know, I'm on parole. These things are gonna happen from time to time. I'm gonna go ahead and go with them, and I'll be back later.
Things go wrong in your town or something, it's possibly people would look at you. And that's okay. Though I don't know what this is about. And we'll explain that to you when we get there.
Detectives come right to the point.
We had a picture of Diane, and we basically threw it on the table in front of him and asked him point blank, do you know this person?
I want you to be as honest as you can. Do you remember ever talking to her?
Yes, sir.
You never talked to her?
No. I don't remember seeing her or talking
Her
to her
name is
ever.
Diane. You know any Dianes?
No, sir.
So you're saying you've never seen this woman, never been to her house, never been invited to look around?
And he immediately said, is somebody accusing me of robbing them or stealing from them? Because if that's the case, that's not me.
I don't know what to say, but I haven't stolen anything from anybody.
And we basically told him, you know, she's dead. And he said, well, I have nothing to do with that.
I don't know if you noticed when you walked in here, this is the homicide unit. I don't know if you've seen TV tonight, a composite drawing of what looks like you.
I've done a lot of things wrong in my life. I'm telling you, as badly as I feel for this woman here, I'm sorry, but you guys are barking up the wrong tree, and I don't care how hard you dig, you're not gonna find me committing any crime like that.
Their next step is to place Russo on the timeline to determine if he could have killed Diane.
He told us that he was in the Austin area because he was going to a Christian radio station to talk to them about his website.
About what time was that?
So that would have been about 4 o'clock, I believe. Sometimes they answer the door, sometimes they don't. When no one came to the door, I went ahead and left.
The storm blows in, and he ended up getting lost. He said, I was lost, I didn't know how to get out of the neighborhood. He said, but I really didn't know what neighborhood I was in. He called his wife in a panic, and she stayed on the phone with him basically until she directed him out of Austin and got him on his way back to Bastrop.
I know I was on the phone with my wife the entire time going all the way home. I have no idea where I was at.
Do you think it's a little coincidental that several people said that they saw you in the neighborhood?
Well, it has to be coincidental because I haven't been in any neighborhood.
When police dig deeper, his story doesn't hold up.
Everybody in the radio station was preparing for this storm, and part of their tornado protocol is to get everybody that works in the building into the lobby and open the front doors to equalize the pressure if a tornado came through.
So if he had been there, they would have seen him.
If you get questioned, you shouldn't provide false alibis and false evidence, because what you're doing is creating a constellation of facts that are building up against you.
His phone records also indicated that he was still in Austin during the storm.
The phone records indicate he was there around 5 p.m. on Thursday.
We were able to really put him right in the middle of Diane's neighborhood. We were pretty excited because we knew that we were on the right track. We specifically asked him point blank if he was out looking for homes in Austin, if he was in the neighborhood to buy a home, and he flat out adamantly denied that it was not him. He wasn't in the market to look for a home. They couldn't afford that kind of home, and it wasn't him.
Police obtained Russo's fingerprints for comparison.
When they processed the flyer that had been obtained from one of the residents, it had Russo's fingerprints on it that showed that he had been at that residence and that he had given that story to that particular resident.
As homicide detectives, that's the one thing that you're looking for, is that one mistake that opens the case for you.
It proved that he had been the one that was going from house to house that was for sale. He was lying.
Police have Diane Holik's suspected killer, Anthony Russo, cornered, but there isn't enough evidence to justify his arrest.
All we had was a very circumstantial case, so now comes the hard work to make a case against him to keep him in jail and prove that he was there. When we got the fingerprint hit on the flyer, we were able to prove that he lied to us, and that in and of itself is a parole violation, which was enough to revoke him and put him back in jail for making a false report to a police officer. And so this really was a strategy to give us that extra time we needed. We went to Tony's house to execute the search warrant, to photograph the van and collect any evidence that we might get from that van.
I was a bit disappointed when we didn't find anything. And then as we're starting to go down the driveway, I found where you had some wire rolled up, and it was held in place by his white ties.
They appeared to be exactly the same size as what was used to bind her wrists. The thing that really threw it over the top for us was we seized a computer from his home. He was a member of a group that you have to sign on to called Necrobabes. And it is a kind of a fantasy website. Basically, these are vignettes, little stories of women who have been strangled and bound. And there's photographs either of real crime scenes or staged crime scenes that go along with these little vignettes. It became very clear to us that Tony Russo had an affinity for bondage and strangulation.
Police look through Russo's search history and discover he was looking at the site only hours before Diane's murder.
One of the stories had to do with a woman being strangled in her home that was for sale, and that the ruse would be that you make it look like it's a robbery. That was pretty much what he did. He emulated that story almost to a T. That piece of the puzzle was pretty much the last piece we needed. We knew without a doubt it was him.
On May 29th, 2002, Anthony Russo is indicted.
He had this fantasy of strangling women, and I guess it just came a time where he couldn't resist any longer, and he had to act it out.
With Russo still claiming innocence, police use the reconstructed timeline to help prove his guilt.
The day of Diane's murder, I think that Tony had been sharking around in neighborhoods looking for a victim. He came upon Diane's house around noon.
I'm sure he surmised she's single. No one else appears to live in the house. She's a potential. Russo leaves. Diane carries on about her day. As the day progresses, perhaps he went to other locations, other houses, and didn't find what he was looking for.
I think when the storm hit, he felt like that was his opportunity under the cloak of bad weather, that he could go back to that house and commit his crime without anybody ever hearing her scream.
He knocks on the door. Diane lets him in, excited a potential buyer was returning.
He waited till they got to that upstairs bedroom, and that's when he took the opportunity to basically grab her from behind, bind her, and then strangle her.
He comes back down. He's wiped maybe whatever he touched, made sure that he didn't leave anything behind. He gets in his minivan and he leaves.
Tony Russo is a sexual sadist. There were several that were victims of his that came forward. We were lucky that they weren't murdered.
The jury finds Anthony Russo guilty of murdering Diane Holik. He's sentenced to life in prison.
He was sicko, just evil. I keep tabs on Russo because I don't want that SOB getting out.
Tony Russo will never victimize another woman again. He will be in prison until the day he dies. I couldn't have asked for a more challenging case or a more gratifying case at the end of it. I think we're all in this for the justice of the victims and the families that are left behind.
Diane was one of the sweetest persons you could ever meet. She just loved everything, everybody, life. I know she's not hurting, but I still miss her a lot.
You just don't wake up one morning and commit a crime of this nature. Not this demented and sick and evil.
A brutal killing.
An innocent young girl should not have to worry about being murdered in her own apartment.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
There was this kind of bad blood between them. He was a registered sex offender. He paints himself as a great guy, but he's lying, he's lying, he's lying.
The truth will be revealed.
He is a walking time bomb. He is just incredibly dangerous.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. In the early morning hours in Arlington, Texas, emergency services respond to a frantic 911 call.
A citizen living in the apartment complex heard glass break. They assumed that was a burglary, so the Arlington police were called.
When our officers showed up, they saw the smoke and the flames in the apartment.
The fire department arrives. They do what they're supposed to do, and that is put out the fire.
Once the flames are extinguished, the true horror of the scene is revealed.
The apartment was destroyed. It was a mess. I went into the bedroom. There was a young woman laying on her back on the bed. And the very first thing I saw was a circular, round puncture in the middle of her chest. It was clear to me that there's a stab wound.
She was burned enough to not be recognizable, but not to the point that it concealed the injuries that we found. She was lying on her back on a bed, and that part of her in contact with the bed was relatively spared from the heat. Right away, we're going to treat it like it's foul play.
The Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office had the responsibility for positive identification, and they were able to do that with dental records.
And that's what led to the discovery that it was Missy Grubbs. She was 19 years old, 2.5 weeks from her 20th birthday.
Arlington police detectives Tommy Lenore and John Stanton are tasked with finding her killer.
In order to catch the assailant, you want to know about your victim. So I learned a lot about Missy right off the bat. As a father myself, she is the daughter every father would want. She was a wonderful, wonderful kid. She was a freshman at the University of Texas at Arlington. She was an honor student from a nearby high school. She was also in the band. She had very strong religious beliefs. A young lady with incredible integrity.
We found out she was also known to still be a virgin, which she apparently was not ashamed to tell people. The people who she worked with and associated with, they all were told that she had made that decision, that she was going to wait till after she was married.
Someone has robbed Missy of that future.
There was some effects to her body from the smoke, but you could still see that she had been beaten. Her legs were sprawled, hanging off the edge of the bed. She was wearing a shirt or a bra, but it was pulled up to her neck. It was burnt. Her panties were around her right ankle, and there was a pair of pants also on the floor. You could also see what appeared to be ligature marks.
To solve the murder, detectives will need to trace the last day of Missy Grubbs' young life.
Missy worked 2 different restaurant jobs, was working her way through college. We learned that within 24 hours or so of Missy's death, she worked.
She would stay and kind of decompress from her night's work, and then they would all call it a night and she went home. The last anyone knew from the workplace was that she had gone home alone sometime after 11 o'clock at night.
Detectives work to establish time of death.
In these type of cases, what you really want to find out is, was she killed before the fire or was she killed after the fire?
If a person is dead from a fire, they will have almost certainly inhaled some soot and smoke, and we'll see that to the naked eye. And so if we analyze the blood, we will see that there's an elevated saturation of carbon monoxide in their red blood cells. In Missy Grubbs' case, there was no soot to be found, and when we ran the laboratory studies, there was no carbon monoxide detected. She actually died of a stab wound to the chest that perforated her heart. She was dead when the fire got to her, and she had not begun to decompose. It could have been minutes or hours.
So, in order to establish the time of the fire, we rely on the arson investigators. I rely on their expertise and their forensics.
Arson experts determined the fire started moments before the 911 call at 3:30 a.m. With Missy arriving home sometime after 11, this gives investigators a 4 to 5 hour window for the attack.
When someone attaches arson to their crime, there's two reasons to set that fire, and usually they go hand in hand. One reason is to destroy evidence. Another reason is to do what we call staging, and that is to try to disguise the death as something other than what the assailant actually did.
There was information coming in from the arson investigators that the source of the fire was the front door. And then there was a trail of accelerant that led back to the bedroom where Missy was found.
If a fire is set correctly, it can have devastating consequences for an investigation as far as forensic evidence. Investigating a death in which fire has been introduced to the crime scene makes that investigation 10 times harder.
Fortunately, there was less than complete destruction there at the apartment.
If fire doesn't have oxygen, it'll go out. And what happened was the assailant shut the bedroom door, left the apartment, and the absence of oxygen in the bedroom put the fire out. You can't help but destroy things when you set it on fire. But he didn't destroy what he intended to destroy.
We were able to collect a sexual assault kit that was usable.
A key piece of evidence from this crime scene was DNA, collected during the autopsy from the vaginal swabs. But in 1994, it usually took a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks to get your results back.
DNA is a very helpful tool in investigating a death, but it's only helpful if you have something to compare it to. When you have a suspect and their DNA, you can compare the DNA that you've collected from the body.
The very nature of this crime, the arson, the sexual assault, the brutality of it, and the violence really led us to worry that we have a serial killer or a serial rapist running around.
We've got someone out among us who is a violent offender. You've got a bad individual out there, without a doubt.
But what we find is people who stage crime scenes, especially with arson, they were always either associated or related to the victim.
There did not appear to be any forced entry that gave us some direction as to maybe this is an associate of Missy's.
The careful work of forensics uncovers a key clue.
We actually found some letters in her apartment. The letters were of a romantic nature. From reading it, you could tell this was a male.
They were seemingly like boyfriend-girlfriend type letters.
You could also see in the body of these letters that she was battling with her abstinence. You could see Missy was confused. You know, she wanted the romance, and she didn't know if this individual was going to settle for the limitations. She went a little too far with him, or was going to go a little too far with him, and she was feeling bad about that. The letters also expressed anger and maybe a little animosity towards Missy. Well, they were breaking up. We identified the person who was corresponding back and forth with Missy on these letters, and his name was Ivan.
Detectives learned that Ivan and Missy were co-workers at the restaurant.
This guy was a very primary person for us right away.
We did a background check on Ivan. We found that Ivan was a registered sex offender. Ivan was convicted for having a sexual relationship with a minor. The fact that Ivan did have a criminal background, the fact that there was a little bit of a volatile nature to their relationship, it's certainly a red flag.
Some people have a very hard time letting go of someone they're involved with, and they would rather see that person dead than with somebody else.
This makes him a really good suspect because that horrible sexual assault and brutal crime could simply have been triggered in an explosion from him.
Arlington detectives have identified their first suspect in the hunt for Missy Grubbs' killer, her boyfriend, Ivan.
We had very limited information, just the letters and so forth. But because of the state of their relationship, he's certainly going to be a primary focus at that time.
The detectives bring Ivan to the station.
Ivan's demeanor was very polite. He was very open, somewhat preppy, soft-spoken. Was certainly not a gangster or a tough guy. He seemed just somewhat, actually, to the point where he was rather meek. You could tell Ivan had feelings towards Missy, but he was also upset.
Despite their strained relationship, Ivan swears he had nothing to do with Missy's death.
Ivan said he respected Missy. He was leaning more to terminating the relationship as opposed to pursuing it. He wasn't aggravated. It was basically fading away on his part. Missy did not want it to go away. He did.
Ivan tells Lenore he was home alone on the night of her death.
Ivan did not have an alibi for his whereabouts during the time frame that Missy was killed.
You've got his background as a person who's been convicted of sexual assault, and you've got no alibi, and you've got a dead body. That makes him a very strong suspect.
In this particular case, we had forensic evidence.
Ivan did not have any problem with providing blood, hair, all of those samples necessary to do comparisons with the samples that were taken at the autopsy.
But I knew there was not going to be a forensic exclusion of any person of interest prior to 6, 8, possibly even 10 weeks. But during the interview with Ivan, he was very suspicious of an individual who he believed was responsible for Missy's death. That individual was Jeff Smith. He had worked with Missy at the restaurant. Ivan had told us Jeff Smith saw himself as a ladies' man, and Jeff Smith was pursuing Missy and did so in probably not the most respectful manner. She did not respond to his advances, and that just fueled his animosity towards her.
Jeffrey was someone who sort of had a grudge against Missy because of something that occurred at the restaurant.
He's fired from where they work together, and he immediately assumes that Missy is responsible for getting him fired.
If you were to go back in history, I think that love and lust and betrayal would probably be the #1 reason why people end up dead.
Ivan says Jeff Smith's anger soon took a disturbing turn.
Smith started issuing threats to actually harm Missy.
Many death threats are emotion-based over domestic issues, financial issues. Is it important in an investigation because it tells you the mindset of the individual the day they said it? Yes, it's important. It's evidence. And it should be treated as such.
We were trying to find Jeffrey Smith, and he seemed to never be where we thought he was going to be. When we would show up to try to interview this guy, he was always somewhere else. The more time goes by that he doesn't make himself available, it takes it to a more suspicious level.
I was actually able to locate his girlfriend. They were living together in an apartment in Arlington, and she agreed to come to the station and speak with me. The girlfriend informed us that Jeff Smith was emotionally unstable. He was also very volatile. He had a hair-trigger temper. She was very cautious of him, actually somewhat fearful of him.
Normal, non-controlling men don't typically commit murders. It's a certain type of person who gets jealous, gets angry. And so if friends and family members describe a man as being controlling, that has some significance if you're a police officer or a lawyer trying to figure out whether the person did it.
Jeff Smith's girlfriend implied that she believed that Jeff Smith could have been responsible as well for the murder of Missy Grubbs. Now we have somebody that has motive. We have a very recent situation that could have easily exploded into violence and a sexual assault. That's everything this guy could have done.
Detectives press the girlfriend for details on Smith's timeline.
Jeff Smith was supposed to have been with her on the night of Missy's death, and he was not. And she couldn't find him. Then the following morning, she found a note on her windshield from Jeff Smith, who was apologizing because he didn't come home, claiming that he was with some friends. So the fact that Jeff Smith should have been at the apartment and he wasn't, and that was the night that Missy was killed, and you add that into this volatile relationship and the threats towards Missy, becomes a primary suspect at that point.
Jeff Smith's girlfriend has given police enough to make him the prime suspect in Missy Grubbs' murder.
The additional information that Jeff Smith was supposed to have been with her on the night of Missy's death, and he was not, added fuel to that suspicion. I started thinking that we may be pretty close.
After days of chasing him, his girlfriend helps detectives track him down.
I think the best way to describe him is a con man wannabe. He was cocky, he thought he was cool, he thought he was a smooth talker, thinking that he's gonna sit in there with me and just blow smoke all day long and I'm gonna believe it. Jeff Smith downplayed the alleged threats and so forth towards Missy. Matter of fact, he turned it around and said that she was the one pursuing him. She was the one who had the hots for him, which I knew was an absolute lie. Jeff Smith denied any allegation of being violent and volatile. I mean, he paints himself as a great guy. I'm a good guy. Sure, I have problems like everybody else, but no, I wouldn't hurt anybody. Whoever's telling you this is just feeding you a bunch of bull. I don't think there were two words that came out of Jeff Smith's mouth that I believed. We have someone who is violent towards women. We have someone who wants to be controlling towards women. We have someone we definitely know does not like to be rejected by women, which makes him a really good suspect because sexual assaults are power plays. I can picture him as the kind of guy that thinks he's smarter than the police. So he's the guy that's gonna set the fire and fool us and send us off in another direction.
However strong the detective's suspicions, everything hinges on where Smith was the night of the crime.
Jeff told me that he was with his girlfriend that night after midnight. I knew he wasn't because the girlfriend said otherwise. That just solidified what I knew about this guy, and that is, he's lying, he's lying, he's lying. What's interesting, though, is he does agree to give me his blood and his hair and his saliva, knowing that it's going to be compared to the sexual assault examination of Missy Grubbs. I've had guilty people over the years cooperate. The bad part about that, we don't know the answer for 6 to 8 weeks down the road. So I continue the investigation, working on my victimology, wanting to know more about Missy, wanting to know more about what her lifestyle was. Who could have done this?
Detectives learn that a colleague from the restaurant stayed with Missy in the weeks prior to her death.
His name was Charles. Charles, frankly, is probably one of the closest to Missy that we knew, other than Ivan. He was kind of down on his luck, didn't have a lot of money, needed a place to stay, and Missy, having the incredible big heart that she has, she actually allowed him to stay with her at her apartment, and he slept on the sofa.
Charles soon takes advantage of Missy's good intentions.
Charles steals the money out of her tip jar. Missy, being the good and wonderful kid that she is, she's also not going to put up with anything as well. She called the police department. The Arlington police made a report, and they actually issued a warrant for his arrest for theft. And Charles fled. We believe that he was still in Arlington at the time of her death. Obviously, the motive here is revenge. And he is certainly an individual that we need to find and talk to. But of course, we're on edge because we don't know where he's at. We found out that he's reportedly fled Texas.
If you're already focused in on an individual and they disappear or take off somewhere for an extended period of time, it would be of great interest to me if they were a suspect. The person has a lot of explaining to do as to why they didn't commit the murder.
Police now have 3 of Missy's work colleagues, all under investigation.
At this stage, Jeff Smith is still my primary suspect. We certainly are interested in waiting on lab results to come back on Ivan. And we would like to catch Charles, who is a fugitive. But we don't have forensics on him because we haven't had the opportunity.
Good police detectives will keep an open mind. If there are numerous suspects, you've got to investigate each of them equally with the hopes that at some point in the investigation, you're going to catch a break against one of them.
I go by the belief that you just don't wake up one morning and commit a crime of this nature. Not this extreme, not this demented and sick and evil.
We want to be able to efficiently and effectively find out who this offender is. As bad an individual as this person is, they need to be removed from the general population, and I'd like to keep them away from my son and daughter as well.
What happens next takes everyone by surprise.
Jeff Smith kidnapped his girlfriend. You leave the police department, you're telling me what a great, wonderful guy you are, and now he kidnaps his girlfriend. I mean, this guy is just out of control, but he's out of control in a very violent, felonious way. He is a walking time bomb. And if he's capable of doing what happened to Missy, he can do it again, especially now, because now he's really just incredibly dangerous. He was a fugitive, nowhere to be found. And he's a wanted felon, so to say that we were on edge is an understatement. And to say that there was an urgency to find Jeff Smith is an understatement.
Before Smith can be found, his terrified girlfriend surfaces.
He did eventually release her, but he didn't turn himself into the police. We found out that the girlfriend is okay, but in speaking with her, we were not able to get any information that would have led us to Jeff Smith's whereabouts.
Trying to find him was very difficult, and he was in a lot of trouble for what occurred.
At this stage in an investigation, when you have a primary suspect and you feel very comfortable that you're looking in the right direction and you can't lay hands on them, knowing how volatile they are, we had an investigative team that collectively was focused on getting Jeff Smith apprehended.
As the manhunt continues, the DNA tests on Jeff Smith and Ivan return. Both are negative.
If you're innocent, you're really glad there is DNA evidence available, because the same things that are such strong pieces of evidence to convict a killer can clear an innocent person.
We're humans. We have hope. God, I hope this is him. I hope this is him. But at the same time, we also know DNA is as solid as you can get as far as excluding somebody. I've also learned through my experience, you are usually going to clear a multitude of suspects before you ever find your actual perpetrator. Charles is still a primary suspect. We don't know where he's at, but you have to always be aware of the possibility that there are other suspects. That we could also have a predator out there that's not known to anyone. And we are on pins and needles.
Statistically, solvability continues to decrease as time moves forward. So you've got to get the offender located and prosecuted as soon as possible.
Going in the many different directions we're going was when I received a phone call from Missy's mother that completely changed the entire course of this investigation. Just like everybody else, other relatives and friends, she is just beating herself up saying, who could have done this, and trying to remember anything. And she recalled the day of the murder, Missy telling her on the telephone about a man whose name was Luis. And Luis is a 32-year-old man who lives in the apartment complex. He has a common law wife, and he has a small child that Missy babysits. Well, before the mother finished all of that, she has my attention, because this guy came out of the blue. The mother continues that Luis would come over to Missy's apartment during the early morning hours, sometimes late at night, 11, 12 at night, wanting to talk to Missy, telling Missy that he believes his wife is cheating on him. And he wants to talk to her in person because he's afraid his wife would hear him talking on the telephone.
But that on this day before the incident, he was apparently over at her apartment and they were joking around. And they had what Missy described as a sort of a pillow fight.
I'm thinking a 32-year-old man over here getting into a pillow fight. When I heard all of this, I mean, my stomach dropped.
Detectives learn that Luis Arroyo also works with Missy at the restaurant.
So he works with her, he lives in the same complex, she babysits his child, comes over late at night, and he's 32 years old and she's 19. This was jaw-dropping. We need to talk to this man. This is just not normal.
Detectives have focused their attention on the strange behavior of Missy's neighbor, Luis Arroyo.
Asked if he'd come speak with me. We sat down, he was polite, cooperative, you know, fairly good-looking guy, looks in shape, good manners, very pleasant individual, very smart individual. I explained to Luis that I was investigating the death of Missy Grubbs. He projected himself as just, oh, it's horrible. He was sad. I knew her. This is really horrible. I hope you solve the case. What can I do to help? So I just started explaining to Luis what my goal was, and he immediately asked me if I found the gas can. The cause and the origin of the fire was not public, all right? No one said anything about a gas can. No reason he should have known that.
When somebody tells you that they have information that's more than what you would read in the morning newspaper, you need to sort of take another tactic and look at this person in a different way. That changed the complexion of this interview to where Detective Lenore had to advise Luis that the things that he might say could be used against him in a court.
With Missy's call to her mother confirming his visit the previous day, police need to determine if he was in the apartment the moment she died.
I explained to Luis, the way I'm going to exclude the innocent in this particular case is we have forensic evidence that will not only identify the perpetrator, but it'll exclude innocent parties. That's when Luis started getting very nervous. And he said, what evidence wasn't she burnt up? And I said, well, Luis, the problem with the perpetrator in this case is he didn't do a very good job at destroying evidence, if in fact that was his goal. Because we do have evidence. We have DNA evidence that the perpetrator left behind. But Luis, the good news for you is this DNA will also exclude you, and then I can move on. So with that said, I would like you to give me your blood and your saliva sample so that we can compare it to the DNA and get you excluded. And he said, well, I can't do this right now. I have to take my son to the park. And I said, Luis, come with me for a minute. I had Luis stand up and we walked over to a window and I said, it's pouring down rain. You're not going to the park in pouring rain. He goes, well, I've got to go. I just remembered it. I have to leave.
It was very odd that suddenly this individual who was thought to be agreeable to having his samples taken and do whatever it would take, in his own words, to get himself eliminated as being involved in this murder, suddenly wasn't able to make the time to provide the samples.
We had no probable cause. I had no evidence to arrest him. I mean, I don't issue an arrest warrant based on my gut. I issue it based on evidence. So I said, well, are we going to do this? And Luis said, yes, we're going to do it. And I said, when? And Luis says, call me tomorrow and we'll set it up. I said, okay. And he left.
With Arroyo now their top suspect, the detectives go back to the co-workers he shared with Missy.
One of the employees was talking about how Luis was so distraught over the death of Missy Grubbs, and that he really hoped they'd catch the killer that raped and murdered Missy. The fact that Missy was sexually assaulted was not public. It wasn't revealed to Luis Arroyo when I interviewed him that day. We just simply said we have DNA and that it wasn't burned up. That can be anywhere. That can be anything. But he specifically said to co-workers that she was sexually assaulted. Only the killer would know that.
When police visit Arroyo's home, they hit another problem.
He had left. And at that time, his wife wasn't sure exactly where he went, but that he'd gone out the previous evening and she hadn't heard from him since then.
I had to explain to her, listen, I'm investigating the murder of Missy Grubbs. I need to speak to Luis because he knows her. She babysits y'all's son. Because of that, he's a suspect. What can you tell me about that night?
So Louise's wife came to the station voluntarily and provided a lengthy written statement.
On the night of Missy's death, about 10 o'clock at night, Luis's wife heard Luis go out. Now that's not unusual because he normally goes for a jog. She's awakened later by the sound of Luis coming inside and taking a shower. In her mind, he's done his jog, but then he leaves the apartment a second time. He returns, he takes a shower again. So she gets up, she demands to know what's going on. Luis tells his wife that while he was out jogging, he heard a woman screaming. Running in the direction of those screams led him to an apartment, and he sees that the door is ajar. So he runs in there, and he sees a woman laying nude on the bed. There was blood in the middle of her chest. There was no pulse. So he attempts CPR, but he couldn't stay there because the smoke and the fire was so overwhelming. And he told his wife, I believe that was Missy, who I saw. You didn't call 911. Why would you not call 911 after you've seen all of this? All of this was very suspicious. The bond between a husband and a wife, that's tight. And by nature, even in illegal acts, they'll want to cover for their loved one, or they'll want to protect them. I have to ask myself, well, why didn't the wife come to me and tell me this the day of the murder? Was it denial? And so as I'm explaining to her what we know, I believe that during the course of that interview with her, she just realized, my God, he did this.
The wife of Luis Arroyo's statement to police places him in Missy Grubbs' apartment. They must now track him down.
She informed me that Luis is in San Antonio and he's staying with her parents. He was arrested by the San Antonio Police Department and transported to the county jail. When I came face to face with Luis, this was not the same person that I had talked to a short time earlier. Completely different human being. Incredibly withdrawn, slumped over, head down. I guess one of the ways you want to describe it is just a beaten person. I don't know what made Luis suddenly just open up as much as he did, because what's interesting is this, he does open up.
Luis started with that they were going to have consensual sex, and that it was completely agreed upon by Missy that that would occur.
He claimed that it was a tender, wonderful moment, which we know to be absolutely hogwash. That didn't happen.
He had found the knife, which was just a kitchen knife. We pretty much allowed him to indicate where he stabbed the victim.
Then he puts on what I believe is this show of falling on the floor and crawling around and acting like you're losing your mind. That was just a show. With all that said, he provided enough to solidify and to support evidence it was him, that he did do it.
With Arroyo's confession in hand, detectives put together everything they know of the events leading up to Missy Grubbs' death.
At approximately 10 p.m., he leaves his apartment under the pretense of doing his jog. After 11 o'clock, he goes to see Missy. He knocks on the door. He does that all the time. She's not alarmed by it. She allows him inside. And during the time Luis Arroyo is in that apartment with Missy Grubbs, he rapes and murders her. After he kills Missy, he has to do something. He has to destroy the evidence. So he gets in his car, he goes to a gas station and fills up a 1-gallon gas can. Goes back to Missy's apartment, goes into her bedroom. He douses her with gas and all around the bed, in the apartment, in the bedroom, up to the door, lights the fire, shuts the door, and leaves. He goes back home. He showers. After he showers, he wants to go back to the apartment to make sure that it's on fire. He goes back to the apartment and it's not on fire. The reason being is because there was not enough oxygen in that room from shutting the door. He sets a second fire. After that, he goes back to his apartment again. He showers, cleans up. Luis Arroyo is a textbook psychopath. I mean, this guy's a predator.
A case like this is a sad thing. It makes you angry that somebody would waste somebody else's life like this for such a thing as a sexual assault.
The DNA analysis returned, and as we expected, the matches were statistically amazing that it would be anyone else but Louise.
Despite the overwhelming evidence, Arroyo backtracks.
Luis Arroyo pled not guilty. We had a trial. The defense tried to explain the actions as something other than the psychotic predator that he is. And the jury didn't buy it. And convicted Luis Arroyo of capital murder.
In January 1997, Luis Arroyo is sentenced to life without parole. Charles was never prosecuted for the theft charge. Jeff Smith was sentenced to 4 years in prison for the kidnapping.
What's justice? I mean, nothing compares to what happened to Missy Grubbs. Nothing.
It would never bring back your family member. It would never bring back a daughter. But in the society in which we live, that's about all that we can hope for. That we do identify the offender and let the justice system do the rest.
I feel better knowing that Luis Arroyo is no longer on the streets. But once that sense of comfort wears off, the fear sets in that there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Luis Arroyos running around out there.
It was so callous, like she was an animal, just murdered in cold blood.
A brutal killing.
We were all floored. She was very beautiful, just a sweetheart of a person.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
I mean, this guy matches so many people in Houston.
His close relationship with her would have provided for opportunity. You have the woman scorned. She started acting crazy.
Here's a man that just killed his girlfriend. He's telling us this.
The truth will be revealed.
We asked him, do you have any idea who may want to harm Jennifer Lewis? And without hesitation, he said yes.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Houston, Texas. The southern metropolis. Home to 2.3 million.
Houston is a fine city. I love it. Lots of good people here. But it's one of the largest cities in the United States. And so you're gonna find, crime.
There is no community that I'm aware of that all good people are in. It just doesn't happen. And some of these cases are really horrifying.
Even for experienced detectives, some murders stand out.
We had a young female walking along with a friend from a parking lot to the front door of Houston Community College for Health Professions. And all of a sudden, she is shot in the back.
The victim is 27-year-old nursing student Jennifer Lewis.
By the time homicide investigators got there, Miss Lewis had been transported to the hospital.
She was dead on arrival.
Homicide investigator Clarence Douglas begins the search for her killer.
Jennifer's case was one of those horrible cases. Why would someone want to shoot this young woman that's going to a nursing school to be an RN?
We were 6 weeks from graduation. Going around innocently in life, thinking nothing like this will happen to me. Jennifer and I met as nursing students. It was an automatic chemistry. We would study together. We would talk about these transitional issues of 20-year-old women, boyfriends, and dreams and hopes. Jennifer was energy in a human being. She was just like a magnet.
Here you had a woman that was innocent, totally innocent. And then all of a sudden, this tragic event takes place.
Investigators begin the task of tracing the last 24 hours of Jennifer's young life, starting with the shooting itself.
We knew that we had a witness, Cheryl Allen, that was walking right beside Jennifer.
That day we drove up to school. We parked in our normal spot, hopped out. The day was bright. There was lots of people, school buses. We had our arms intertwined, and we both heard this loud blast. I said to her, "Did you hear that car backfire?" There was seconds of a pause, and she says, "No, I've been shot." And when she said that, her body immediately got limp, very heavy, and she couldn't take any more steps. So I laid her down, and everything slowed down. It was a very beautiful day in the midst of an extremely tragic scene.
From all appearances, Jennifer did not know the shooter, because when she was shot, she said, "That man shot me." She didn't call out a name or anything. At that point, Cheryl could see the blood coming out of her chest there, the front of her chest. Cheryl was trying to help Jennifer.
I said to the teacher that was doing CPR, "Stop, she's dead." When I looked in her eyes, I just already knew she was present with the Lord. I did see a figure running away from the corner of my left eye.
But she couldn't really get a good look at him because she was trying to assist Jennifer. We have witnesses that heard the gunshot and then saw the shooter run away. Told us he wasn't afraid to be seen. All the witnesses agree that it was a thin black male. They agreed that he had a dark hat on his head. It's not that he walked with a limp or he had one arm. I mean, this guy matches so many people in Houston.
Witness accounts do yield a key detail.
After the shooting, he ran and got into a red car. And as the red car sped off,
We weren't close enough to see who was in the car. They could only see a silhouette of the driver. At this point, everybody's a suspect. Everybody.
Detective Douglas turns his attention to the crime scene.
Containing the crime scene is very difficult because the containment starts when the first officer arrives on the scene. Things that happen prior to his arrival, we can't control that. Things like the nurses, instructors that came out to give Jennifer CPR and tried to keep her breathing.
When a crime scene has been altered, either because of resuscitative efforts or because she was shot while she was in this crowd, it makes the crime scene workup much more challenging.
One of the things that you look for at a shooting scene is firearms evidence. We didn't find any spent shell at the scene. So we believed that it would be a revolver, not a semi-automatic weapon. But also, there was no bullet. It went from her back through her chest. It came out right below the neckline here. You couldn't find the bullet because there was so much going on at the scene. But from the size of the exit wound and the travel of the bullet from the back to front, the estimate was that it was a .38 caliber handgun.
Homicide investigators found her cell phone. She was carrying a lunch with her, and that was found there. When you don't have direct evidence to connect to a suspect, it can be very challenging for homicide investigators to develop leads because it is a real whodunit.
There is one conclusion they can draw.
There was no confrontation at all with the shooter. No words spoken. The person with Jennifer was not harmed. This was a hit on Jennifer alone. Somebody hated her. So we had the challenge of finding out who that hater was. To try to solve a case like that in a huge city the size of Houston, we knew it was going to be difficult. So you got to go figure out who does she associate with, who is her friends, who is her enemies.
Cheryl gives detectives insight into Jennifer's timeline.
Every day, I would pick her up before school started. School started in the afternoon, something like 5. And her home was in the direction of the school, so it was nothing for me to go by there. That day, she needed me to drop her boyfriend off at home.
Melvin Reed was an associate minister at a church in Houston. And he had a good job as a postal worker. He met Miss Jennifer Lewis at church, and things took off from there. She was going to marry Mr. Reed.
Cheryl told us that she picked Jennifer and Melvin up, and they drove Melvin to his apartment. Then Cheryl drove her straight to the parking lot of the school.
So he's on the timeline, very close on the timeline, and he would know her daily routine. He knew how she traveled. And he knew that she would be going to school on certain days and at certain hours.
It's often standard to investigate the spouse or partner of a victim for a number of reasons. Primarily is because that person may be the one responsible for the murder. They may have hired someone to commit the murder, and police have to pursue that. They have to go down that avenue and see if that person has any sort of direct or indirect involvement in the crime.
Detectives discover Melvin recently filed a police report that his gun has gone missing.
It was suspicious. It could be, you're dealing also with human emotions. So they needed to take a closer look at his relationship with her.
Detectives investigating the murder of Jennifer Lewis have identified their first person of interest, her boyfriend, Melvin Reed.
What you do in that case, you talk with him and you ask him questions. Did you have anything to do with her getting shot? She just left your place. Have you had any arguments with her?
Police asked Melvin for his account of what happened in the hours before the murder.
You said they read the Bible. Jennifer got ready for school. Cheryl picked them up. And they drove Melvin to his apartment. Jennifer waited for Melvin to run upstairs and get his cell phone and bring it back to her. They embraced one another, kissed. Cheryl and Jennifer drove off.
Melvin denies any knowledge of a red getaway vehicle and says he had no means of getting to campus.
Either he didn't have a car or his car was in the shop being repaired.
He said that when the shooting happened, he had just been dropped off, and he received a call from a relative of Jennifer telling him that Jennifer had been shot. There was very, very few cell phones at that time. So they called him at his landline, and he was home.
Police need to determine if Melvin had enough time to commit the murder.
Melvin's house back to campus was maybe 10 minutes.
We didn't think that he could follow them, shoot Jennifer, and run back to the house that quickly. And the gun that he had didn't really match. It's a .380 semi-automatic, not a revolver. Melvin was upset. He couldn't believe that this had happened to Jennifer. There was really no reason at that point to think that Melvin was actually involved. But we also had to look at other people that he may have been involved with or knew. When we asked him the question, do you have any idea who may want to harm Jennifer Lewis? Without hesitation, Melvin said yes. My ex-girlfriend, Sheila Dillard. She and I have a son together, but we've been separated for about a year. When he said that, it gets your attention. Why would he say that about his ex-girlfriend, the mother of his child?
The police will always look at family members to see who has an axe to grind. And it's usually pretty easy to find out because if you don't like a family member, those feelings aren't usually secrets.
What happened was Melvin and Sheila had broken off their relationship. But because they had a son together, they would see one another. Sheila still looked at him as her man.
Melvin recounts a specific incident from months before.
On one particular day, Melvin had his son, who he calls Little Melvin. He tells Sheila, when you come to pick up Little Melvin, call me. But instead of Sheila calling, when she got to the apartment, she went upstairs. She saw Jennifer. Melvin introduced her to Jennifer. It's my girlfriend. From that day, Sheila began to call him repeatedly. And then just before Valentine's Day, a few weeks before the murder, Sheila's over at Melvin's, and he tells her, I'm gonna ask Jennifer to marry me. Sheila was hysterical. She went into his apartment and she took a photograph that he had on his dresser there of Jennifer. And she ripped it apart.
Melvin reveals another key detail about the day of the murder.
That day, Jennifer told Melvin that she had received some telephone calls where the person would just hang up. Nobody was on the phone.
Those calls came between 2:30 and 5.
He suspected it was Sheila. But if Sheila Dillard had anything to do with Jennifer's death, she hired someone to do it. Because all the witnesses identified the shooter as a young black man.
So after talking to Melvin, you have to talk to Sheila. And that was the next step that we did in this investigation. She agreed to come down to the homicide division. We talked to Sheila extensively. Her alibi was I was at home fixing my mother's hair.
Detectives need to confirm her alibi with her mother.
The mother was an angry person.
Police went to Sheila's mother's house and there was a big argument.
When people prevent you from doing your job, that's borderline obstructionist. But it's rare for the police, even with all the lying that goes on, to charge people. Because if you start charging people for lying to you, then you may have people who will not cooperate with you down the road.
We still had to get more information on Sheila. So we asked her if she would take a polygraph test.
Guilty people sometimes put themselves forward and willingly offer to do a lie detector test or polygraph. And the reason they do this is because they're basically saying, look, I'm innocent, I didn't do it. And I'm willing to do this test as a means of covering for themselves.
She admitted that, yeah, I was upset. Melvin hurt me. And she said she wanted to go back with Melvin. That was her child's father, and she wanted to be with him. We asked her, did you shoot Jennifer Lewis? Do you know who shot Jennifer Lewis? Were you there when Jennifer Lewis was shot and killed? All those questions were asked, and she passed all those questions according to the examiner, as showing that she was not involved. We knew Sheila didn't shoot her, but we believed she somehow had some kind of connection, and we still had to figure out what that was. We wanted more direct information that would try to connect her to that red car, to the shooter. Sheila had a small Ford, and it was kind of a goldish color. And she denied having anything to do with the red car. So we called a special unit that's attached to Houston Police Department and asked them if they would do surveillance for us.
As they do so, detectives receive a new lead.
Another officer that worked the street in uniform called us and said, you need to look at Jennifer's ex-boyfriend. His name is John Johnson.
I remember her talking about him a lot. It was months before Melvin. I don't know quite how to define the relationship, but they were extremely fond of each other. She talked about him all the time. They did a lot of writing. She never talked about any specifics.
They discovered that Johnson murdered his girlfriend, a woman named Paula Hunter.
Now, here's a man that just killed his girlfriend. We just wanted to get his side of the story as far as he and Jennifer was concerned. How did she fit into that murder?
Detectives follow up on Jennifer Lewis's ex-boyfriend, currently in jail for murder.
John Johnson had a girlfriend named Paula. He was also seeing Jennifer. One night, Jennifer spent the night with Johnson. Johnson gets up, takes Jennifer's car keys, and drives to his girlfriend Paula's. Ended up shooting and killing Paula. As he leaves, one of the witnesses writes down the license plate number. They put the license plate number on the police radio that came back to Jennifer Lewis on Daphne Street. The police go to Daphne Street and they question Jennifer about her car being at a murder scene. She tells the police she don't know anything about it because she didn't realize that he had taken her car. She talked John into, look, turn yourself in for what you've done. John turned himself in and he was put in Harris County Jail where he was awaiting trial.
If Johnson knew that she would testify against him and provide damaging testimony to him, you would think that he probably would want to eliminate her, you know?
We learned that prior to his murder case, there was a civil case that John had received a $9,000 payment. Of course, we looked at that as a possibility that he could use this money maybe to harm Jennifer.
It's relatively common that a person in jail recruits somebody else to commit crimes on the outside. If you serve time in a federal penitentiary where other people around you are in there for violent crimes, it's easier than you might think to find somebody who's willing to kill somebody else for $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000.
Detective Douglas pays Johnson a visit.
In the interview with John, John acknowledged, yeah, I did get that money. It was a civil case that I was involved in, and I gave the money to my mother.
Douglas probes into the pair's relationship.
John Johnson confirmed that he had been involved with Jennifer Lewis.
She would visit him every Tuesday and Friday. They also wrote letters back and forth. Now, here's a man that just killed his girlfriend. He's telling us this. I would never harm Jennifer. Jennifer was special.
Johnson shows police the letters she sent to his jail cell as evidence he's telling the truth.
He had no animosity toward Jennifer. There wasn't any ill feelings for him being in jail.
They find no evidence of a hired hit that would place him on the timeline.
They just could not make a direct connection between John Johnson and the murder of Jennifer Lewis.
You feel frustrated, but we still had a lot of work to do. Somewhere there's some connection from Jennifer to the person that shot her. What we have to do is to, through Jennifer's connections, put that person back at the scene shooting Jennifer.
As Douglas continues to probe, he gets a call from the surveillance team watching Sheila Dillard.
They watched people walking back and forth, people going up to the apartment and coming down. Then they see a small red vehicle pull in. They see the vehicle pick up 3 females. Take those females to a parking lot of a store. Sheila gets out of the car. The driver looks like a thin black male wearing a cap.
They knew that a red car was involved. Now they could connect the red car to Sheila Dillard.
Police surveillance has identified the potential getaway vehicle seen on the day of Jennifer's murder.
They got a license plate number. And that license plate number registered to a Broderick Franklin.
We ran Broderick through the national database. We found the location of where he lived with his mother. She said he doesn't live here anymore. I don't know where he is, but when he calls me, I'll tell him that you all want to talk to him. Wasn't long that Broderick did call us. Said, I heard you're looking for me, something about some murder or something, I don't know nothing about it. Well, we asked him if he'd come down and talk with us. Eventually he did come down. And he said, I don't know a Sheila. So, well, you dropped her off at her apartment on this day, at this time. You showed him a picture, I don't know her. Well, you picked up 3 females. Oh yeah, I remember that. I took them around the corner. But I don't know no Sheila, and I don't know nothing about no murder.
Broderick says he was nowhere near Jennifer's college on the afternoon of the shooting.
So we asked him if you'd take a polygraph. Because your car, we believe that car was involved in the murder. He said, sure, I'd take a polygraph. He takes a polygraph, he passes. We said, okay, well, look, we need to examine your car. Would you allow us to do that? He said, well, that's gonna be a problem. But why is that a problem? Well, the car was burned up. What do you mean it was burned up? On May 8th, the car caught a fire down on Main. It burned up. We followed that lead. We went to a junkyard where the car was taken to, only to find out the car had been cut up into pieces. We couldn't examine the car to see if it would lead us back to the murder itself.
They had nothing to go on at this point. I mean, they had no evidence to tie him to the scene. So they was back to square one.
So what do? You continue to work, you continue to look at your case. You cannot harass the suspects, you can't harass the witnesses. So you have to wait.
The months after Jennifer's murder, you're not the same. Nothing's the same. I would stop by from time to time to see her family. My father would call the police station just as much as her father would, wanting to know what happened, because we all did not know why, who. Was it random? So you have all of these questions. I remember being angry. How this could have happened, not a clue. And I just can remember being really so naive, not to think that that type of evil would cross your path.
These cases are not easy. When you get working in homicide, you know right away that your responsibility is first to the victim and to the victim's family and to the rest of the community. The families always want clarity. I felt frustrated, but I never lost faith You just have to do your job and try not to leave any stone unturned.
13 months after the murder of Jennifer Lewis, investigator Douglas receives an unusual call.
Patrick Curry was a jail inmate at Harris County Jail. He talked to a deputy, told him that he had information regarding the girl that got killed about a year ago at the school. And he wanted to talk to the homicide detectives. You have to be suspicious, but you have to also interview that person and find out what it is they want to tell you.
A jailhouse informant is the lowest of the low. You cannot trust a single word they say unless it can be corroborated by external pieces of evidence. The simple reason is, if you're in jail, you'll do whatever you can to get out of there earlier.
He was, very calm. He said that a couple of days or a day after the girl got shot, he said Sheila came to their house. And Sheila tells her friend, Samara, come here, I want to talk to you. They went into the bedroom. He said he listened at the door.
He talked to Sheila, Dillard, and his friend talking about the death of Jennifer Lewis.
Patrick Curry said you need to talk to his friend, Samara Dobbins. He believed that she knew what was going on, she knew what had happened. That was really like a bell going off. Wait a minute. Samara is a young lady that I knew from working in uniform.
Douglas's knowledge stems from Samara's long history of drug abuse.
A homicide investigator went to visit Samara at the rehab facility.
I decided, since I knew her so well, that I would not interview her. I wanted someone else to interview her to see what she would say. What you're looking for in that interview is something that Samara can tell us about the murder that we don't know, that has not been on the television, that has not been printed in the news media, that has not been on the radio. We learned that Samara had been staying with Sheila for a while. She said that the day that Jennifer was killed, she was watching Little Melvin. She said Sheila left in the morning, driving her car. Sheila came back late in her little red car.
This blows a hole in Sheila's alibi and clearly links her to a car similar to the one used in the murder.
Sheila was very upset. She was pacing back and forth. Sheila told her, she said, I got that bitch.
Detectives honing in on murder suspect Sheila Dillard have found a witness who can break apart her story.
Sheila tells Samara what had happened. Samara was friends with Sheila's brother, Dillard. The day before, Sheila had gone to the crack house where Darryl was selling drugs. At the crack house that day, Darryl introduced Sheila to a man they call a hitman, Gary Chop.
Here, Sheila made the deal that would seal the fate of Jennifer Lewis.
Sheila paid Darryl $700. Darryl was going to get $400. Chop was going to get $300.
It was so cold-blooded and callous. The amount of money that was exchanged between the mastermind and the hitman were ridiculously low.
Samara provides the final pieces of the puzzle, explaining what happened as Jennifer's timeline wound down to zero.
Sheila had written down Jennifer's address from a letter that she had seen in Melvin's apartment. She knew the phone number. Sheila and Chop decided to call the house and see if Jennifer was there. Jennifer comes to the phone, and they hung the phone up. They drove over to Daphne Street, where they parked, and they watched the house. The red car belonged to Daryl's girlfriend.
Cheryl shows up. Jennifer and Melvin gets in the car, and they drives off.
So they followed Jennifer to Melvin's apartment. And they watched Melvin get out of the back seat. Jennifer and Melvin hugged each other and kissed. Jennifer gets back into the car. They drive off to the school. So they follow them. She said that she told Chop, there she go, can you get her? So Chop said, yeah, I can get her. Chop got out and he walked in the parking lot. He shot her. Chop came running back, he jumps in the car and he tells her, go, go, go.
Sheila's brother Daryl then disposes of the gun.
And Daryl throws it into the bayou. I tried to get the dive team to locate the gun, but the gun was never found.
Samara says that Sheila claims to have passed her polygraph by mixing anxiety medication with beer.
It's possible with the spectrum of therapeutic drugs out there that there can be a medication that could reduce the anxiety and therefore allowing somebody to pass it even though they're not being truthful. Another possibility here is that she passed the polygraph test because she's a pathological liar.
Police now have everything they need.
They got an arrest warrant for Sheila Dillard, her brother Dale Dillard, and Gary Lane Chop.
Sheila was found in Melvin's bed when we arrested her. The fact that Melvin said over and over that he was going to marry Jennifer, and to learn later, started a sexual relationship again with Sheila. That was very upsetting. We secured confessions from Sheila and Chop. The only reason that Sheila could give was that it's her jealous rage. She wanted Melvin, and she was going to do anything to get him.
Sheila Dillard figured by having Jennifer Lewis murdered, she could continue to be with Melvin Reed. In the end, she lost because she went to prison. Sheila Dillard pled guilty to murder. She was given 50 years. Gary Lane Chop pled for life in prison. Dale Dillard, her brother, he went to trial. He was found guilty of tampering with evidence, and he was given 20 years in prison. Jennifer, her life was so precious and ended, all because a woman could not accept the fact that her lover had decided to move on.
Several days before Jennifer and I were driving somewhere carrying on our 20-year-old shenanigans, and she said to me, if I died, Cheryl, today, or tomorrow. It'll be okay. And I said, why would you say something like that? She says, I know that heaven is my home, and it'll be okay. And I didn't know that she was speaking to me then. About today. And she needed me to know that she was going to be okay.